Hey everybody, Jack Close Painting here with a new tutorial. I know I've been gone for a while, but we needed to get some stuff done for Adepticon, and now that that is done, we're back with a new video. I've got this really cool Vanguard Marine from Shadowspear, and we're going to do some cool desert camo for this guy. I've already primed him in some Stynylrez red-brown primer, and I'm going to do a base coat with a little bit of that primer showing through in the shadows with some extra opaque heavy brown. After that, I'm going to pull out some Citadel Ogren Camo. This is a nice kind of mid-tone khaki color that we're going to use for our desert tan workup. This guy is going to be a little more flat than my normal style of airbrushing Space Marines, but with this camo we kind of want it to be more flat so that the camo pattern is more striking. So I'm going to be a little bit more heavy-handed, but in the shadows we're still going to have some darker red-brown showing through for contrast. Finally, I'm going to pull out some Krieg khaki. I know this is an edge paint, but you can run it through the airbrush pretty smoothly with some flow improver. It works pretty good. It's going to be the brightest of our desert khaki colors. Again, I'm going to be a little bit more wide, a little bit more heavy-handed. We are going to leave some of those shadows showing through because I want this to be a little bit more flat, a little less contrast in the base color so that the camo pattern is more striking. Next, we're going to cut in our little camo shapes with some heavy sienna. This is a kind of darker brown, a little bit of red content to it. Works really good with this color scheme. Going with a old school Desert Storm American camo. Most people refer to it as the chocolate chip camo. It's really cool. Kind of ties in well with the 40K universe. And I've been liking doing this. Over on Twitch, we're working on the Phobos Librarian from this box set in the same color scheme. When you're cutting in these camo stripes, they're kind of, think of them almost like tiger stripes with a little bit more of a strange shape to them. Not stripes going back and forth, but they are a little blobby. They have some different shapes to them. If you pull up reference material of this camo scheme, you can kind of see that some are very similar to tiger stripes. You have some little Y shapes and some little H shapes and some different wider kind of fatter marks that you can put on. As long as the end and beginning of the stripes has a very sharp point to it, you can't really go wrong here. And when you're doing camo, it's better to be a little bit more conservative when you're putting in these lines, because it's always easier to add more than it is to try to fix it if you have too many, because we do want some big swatches of uninterrupted desert tan on this. So I'm being kind of wide and spacious with the tan in between all of these little camo marks. This video could be cut down a little bit if I wanted to, but I did want to show all of the painting that I'm doing in this camo so that you could kind of see the start to the finish without any cuts, and just sped it up a little bit, but you'll be able to see everything that I'm doing. After we've got those lines cut in, I'm going to pull out a white paint. I'm using bold titanium white from Pro Acryl, and I'm just doing little clusters of small dots. And I'm starting with the white first instead of the black because it's easier to kind of trace the black around these spots to make some sort of leopard spot type clusters. And I'm just being very careful not to press too hard with the brush so that those dots can be very small. You don't want them to be kind of big and splotchy. And I'm doing them in clusters of 3 and 2. Again, if you look up reference material of this camo scheme, you can kind of see that that pattern repeats. Anywhere that we put a brown stripe area, I'm going to randomly place little clusters of these white dots, and every once in a while I will put a couple of white dots or just one out in that field of tan just to give it kind of a random pattern. Again, be conservative with these. It's easier to add more than it is to fix if you add too many. And so as I go around the model, I kind of focus on the stripes first, and then if I think I need to add any more out in the uninterrupted field of color, then I will. After we got all those in, I'm going to pull out some coal black. You can use any black paint that you want for this. I'm just using coal black because I have it handy. And very carefully, I'm going to create some kind of semicircular outlines around these white dots. This is probably the hardest step of this because you have to be very careful not to cover up those spots and very careful not to overpower them with big fat lines. So take your time, be very gentle, and just try to create some little outline marks around these white dots wherever you put them. It doesn't really matter if they're on the top or the side or the bottom. If you alternate them, it works pretty good. If they're all the same, it still works pretty good. Basically, we just want to outline these white dots so the white dots are popping off of those brown stripes in the tan field. And you can see after we get this step done that the camo pattern kind of comes together. Like before that, it was a little spacious, a little sparse. It didn't really look like it was going to be much of anything, but after we get those little dots in, it really ties that camo pattern together. After this, just block in all your normal colors, highlight those up, and it looks really good. Hope you guys enjoyed this. I'll catch you next time.